Hi there, welcome to this video where I'm at RSPB Marshside. So I'm really excited about this video because it's going to be really special. I'm about to meet up with two people that work for the RSPB and they're going to give us behind the scenes access to places that the public can't normally get to. I've also got lots of questions about how the reserve runs and how it was set up. So this video is going to be really fascinating. I'm really going to enjoy myself today, and I'm also going to really enjoy my photography. So this morning I'm sat here with Jo Taylor, and she is the Learning and Visitor Experience Officer here at Marshside. Can you tell everybody what your job is here at Marshside and what kind of things that you do?
Okay, so predominantly I work over at the Fairhaven Lake site and I'm a Learning and Visitor Experience Officer, which means that I deliver high quality curriculum linked education to schools over on the estuary at Lytham. I'm also responsible for the visitor experience, so we run the events, guided walks, things like that, family events. So over at Marshside really, I guess my role is to link the promotions and events and marketing, and we run the social media together. We're all one site, we're all on the Ribble Estuary, and that's what we do here.
So Marshside is set on the Ribble Estuary. What's so important about the Ribble Estuary?
So the Ribble Estuary is one of the most important places in the UK for overwintering waders and wildfowl. The vast expanse of mudflats and salt marsh environment are a massive attraction for these birds. What normally happens is that the birds, the geese, the ducks, the waders, they all breed up in the north, in the Arctic tundra, Greenland, Iceland, places like that. And then obviously in the autumn and the winter they come down to overwinter here. They come down here predominantly because it's slightly warmer than it is up there, obviously. It's a nutritious environment for them. The Ribble Estuary mudflats, the salt marshes, it's packed full of invertebrates that these birds come down to scoff basically in the winter. Yeah. It's the largest single river mouth estuary in the UK. So there are 3 sites that are massively important in the UK for overwintering waders and wildfowl. So you've got the Ouse Washes, you've got Morecambe Bay, and then you've got the Ribble Estuary. The Ribble Estuary is the only one that is a single river mouth estuary, if you like. The others are all more of a delta. You've got numerous rivers running into those. So it's the biggest single river estuary in the UK.
If somebody decided to visit Marshside, what are they likely to see?
So it varies season to season. So obviously we're coming into autumn winter now. So at this time of year we've got huge skeins of pink-footed geese come flying in. We're going to be inundated with flocks of widgeon, teal, loads of shoveler around. We get lots of waders, black-tailed godwit, golden plover. So there's absolutely loads to see. You can't say exactly what spot these birds are going to be in, but they're all across the land, which is really important. In fact, when I was out the other side on the Ribble Estuary at Lytham the other week, when the high tide came in, we had really large flocks of bar-tailed godwit coming in, large numbers of redshank and oystercatcher. And then if we're talking about summer, it changes again because we get the breeding birds then. So we'll have lapwing, small numbers of lapwing breed. We've had really good success story on avocet breeding, both here and at Hesketh Marsh this summer, and a reasonable good numbers of redshank as well, which is primarily what we manage the land for in the spring and the summer.
Now, just talking about managing the land, outside the hide there's lots of cows at the moment, and you were saying earlier that the cows are very important to the upkeep of the land. Can you just tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so the cows are on at the minute. They're doing quite an important job really. They're keeping some of the vegetation down. They're churning up the soil really to get those invertebrates up as well, and they're kind of prepping the land in a way for the widgeon and the teal, for those ducks that use those shallow edges really.
So they're actually doing a very important job.
Yeah, they are.
So apparently the RSPB acquired this site, or part of the site anyway, in the 1990s, and it wasn't doing very well at the time, and so it required you to intervene. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we manage the site down here at Sutton's Marsh now. The land initially was failing. It was still a wet grassland, but it wasn't working in the way it should do. And in actual fact, the land was set aside for development. So since we acquired it, we've fine-tuned the land basically. We use the ditches to control the levels of water. for the different times of year. And then we then expanded out onto the salt marsh across the road, which is across on Marine Drive. So again, that land is now successfully managed as a successful habitat for waders and wildfowl. And then in the 2000s, we also acquired Hesketh Out Marsh, which was a managed realignment project. So that land was really failing, and the minute RSPB got on site there and started to work that land, it's been a massive success story. I think Avocets were almost on it immediately for breeding. And then later on, actually in the 2000s again, we then acquired Crosslands Marsh too. Again, a really vital piece of habitat which is now working for nature, really.
We were just talking with Wes, the warden, and he was telling us about everything that he does during the day, and there's obvious things like opening hides. So what else takes place during the day?
Well, there's an endless variety of tasks. So as well as looking after the visitor infrastructure, like you say, opening the hides and checking the screens, repairing and maintenance of any screens and benches and things like that. There's also monitoring and surveying going on constantly, and it's even the webs and the goose counts tomorrow. There's also constant monitoring of water levels and controlling of the water and controlling of the scrub features. And obviously we've got about 5 kilometres worth of anti-predator fencing, which takes quite a lot of time to ensure it's always in.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get out into the reserve and we're going to look at some things that the general public don't normally see. So I'm going to get special access today and you're going to see them as well. So at the moment we're at Fairclough's Point. What's out on the water at the moment?
Okay, so we've got a really large flock of sleeping black-tailed godwit. There's a few ruff knocking about as well on the grass to the left of them. There's quite a lot of ruff feeding in the grasses over there, and obviously some lapwing as well. And then further towards that side you've got some teal, some widgeon, some shoveler. And everything seems to be snoozing at the minute.
I think I'm going to have a little walk up the road to see if I can get a bit closer to these. So I've come up the road a little bit and I found a gap in the hedge, so I've managed to get a photograph of the godwit, also some widgeons and some lapwings. Now just at the moment you can see Wes unlocking the gate that lets us onto the reserve, but behind him is part of the 5-kilometre predator fence that surrounds the reserve. And this is electrified to stop things like foxes getting onto the reserve and harming the birds. So as you've just seen, I've come into an area that's not accessible by the public, and we're going to find out some things about these ditches that are really important to the upkeep of the reserve. We're stood in front of a ditch at the moment, and Wes was just saying how this is being dug out by a digger recently to clear the sea club brush. What else is it doing?
So the water comes on down over there at Marshside, and it flows through this ditch. Now what the sea club brush was doing was clogging the ditch up really, and it was making the water, well, it was stopping the water from flowing basically. So the diggers have been on, they've taken out the sea club brush, they've recontoured the ditches a little bit so that they're not square at the ends, so that the water is dynamically moving through. It moves through Sutton's Marsh and feeds the ditches within the marsh, and it flows all the way then down through crossings as well, down to the weir, where we then control the levels of water.
Right, so you'd come here and you'd just think it was a natural river, but it's actually very, very carefully managed to make sure.
It's a very well managed water system, and that's really important for the invertebrates, for the chicks in the spring, and for the waders over the winter as well.
So you can see behind me, this area is just a mass of ditches and waterways, but it is very, very carefully managed, and it all flows from the ditch that we saw earlier to allow this area to be wet all of the time, especially during the autumn and winter. And what we're about to do now is go and look at the weir that controls the level of the water that is kept on the reserve. So this is a really important area of the reserve. It's very small, but it provides a vital role, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is the weir which actually controls the water levels on the entire marsh. So with it being autumn and winter at the minute, what we really want to be doing is to be holding the water on the marsh. It's great for the arriving waders and wildfowl, and it also creates the right conditions for the invertebrates for feeding the chicks in the spring.
So what we can do is we can wind this, and it raises this little plate in there that lifts up, and it stops the water from flowing out, or you can lower it down to let the water flow out more.
Yeah, so we're going to raise it up now so that it will hold the water on the marsh.
Excellent. So behind us is Escath Outmarsh, and it's a really fascinating place because we're stood at the moment on an old Victorian seawall, but what is behind us now used to look like this, which was farmland. So do you want to tell us a bit more about the story?
Yeah, sure. So the land behind us originally was original salt marsh to start with, and then it was given over to the community, I suppose, for arable farming really. Now there's a sea wall all around the outside, which was never going to last forever anyway. So eventually it was decided that rather than spending millions of pounds to repair that seawall, that we may as well breach the seawall and allow the seawater to flood back into the land to reclaim the actual salt marsh. Now I suppose that's been done for two reasons, well, for many reasons really. One of them being rising levels of sea, and obviously the seawall wasn't going to last, and also the climate emergency, I suppose, really as well, means things are getting warmer and wetter all the time. And
you were saying as well that the salt marsh actually acts as a sea defence in its own right, because it absorbs the power of the sea if it actually comes into this area.
The energy out of the wave anyway, and obviously the salt marsh itself then soaks up some of the seawater. So it's a type of sea defence anyway in its own right.
I'm stood at the moment in a place where the public don't normally have access to, and this is one of the breaches that have been made in the seawall to allow the sea to fill the marsh, and that's created the salt marshes. Now you can see over to my left where the old wall was, and this is the gap that lets the sea flow in. Now I do need to give a really big thank you to both Joe and Wes for being so generous with their time and showing me so many things today that the general public don't normally see. I really do appreciate it, and you can help out the RSPB either by looking into memberships or just by visiting the reserves and enjoying what they have to offer. I've really enjoyed making that video, and I hope you've enjoyed finding out all of those facts about RSPB Marshside. It's been such a privilege to have behind the scenes access to all of the places that the public can't normally go to, and I've found out so much, and it's been great to do a collaboration between myself and the RSPB. Now if you have enjoyed this video, let me know down below in the comments, or nip over to my Instagram or Vero account, that's at doakdenphotography. Leave me your comments there, and you can also see lots of my photographs photographs. Now, if you like what I do on the channel and want to help support me to make future content like this, then you can leave via the gift shop. That's at Teespring. There I've got a range of merchandise on offer, so head off over there because a purchase really does help me out and it's very much appreciated. And also, don't forget the super thanks button as well. Now, you don't have to spend any money at all to support the channel. You can do that simply by clicking like, subscribe and the bell notifications, because it really helps me out and it makes sure that you don't miss out on any future content. Now, you can do the RSPB a really big favour as well by going and checking out their website. That's at rspb.org.uk. There you can find out about memberships and reserves around the country. Watch out for next week's video. That goes live on Sunday. In the meantime, check out this video just up here. But all that's left now is to say, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.